Dart for Trice. That's Chase, and what a start for Cincinnati. And he has the throw ball for Samuva. Bijan Robinson, he's going to have his first NFL touchdown. Gibbs out of the backfield right away. Oh, yeah, there's no question that he was grabbed. They got ridiculous. They got Gibbs one-on-one with Andrew Van Ginkel in space, and that was it. And this is, again, it's man-to-man. It's one-on-one, and he's underneath. He loses his balance. Block Bowers is one of those guys that has a – and this is –
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty Podcast, presented by the Fantasyholics Podcast Network. I'm Bo. That is Brant. Getting into one of our favorite type of episodes this week, Brant, talking about some trades that we want to look into making, some guys we want to buy post NFL draft. And you know, talking trades is always one of my favorite things to do. I think anybody who plays dynasty season or dynasty fantasy football, where there really isn't an off season, you have to be somewhat addicted to making trades, because that's kind of the alluring part of the dynasty leagues. Real quick, before we get into it, though, I do want to send our condolences to any Colts fans or any, whatever. Jim Irsay, owner of the Indianapolis Colts, did tragically pass away at 65 years of age today. Definitely a big loss for the NFL community. He's definitely been a vocal guy there in Indy. So definitely thoughts are with the Irsay family. And again, anybody, close to that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Sudden, it just kind of popped up on my feed. I wasn't even, really flipping through anything. That's definitely, we send out our condolences to that family and that organization. He's been around for a while. He's done a lot of, good for that organization, good for the football community, and good for the Indianapolis community. We like I said, for the Fatboyz and the Fantasyholics, we send out the best wishes and, our condolences and everything.
Absolutely. Okay, Brant. So again, the draft is the dust is kind of settled from the draft. It's really now until training camp news. It's kind of that long, dragged out, getting excited about watching rookie quarterbacks throw 20-yard completions in 7-on-7s where there's not a second 7. Just the practice film's all we've got right now, a little bit of buzz, but not much. It's kind of that dry time of the season. But one way to make it a little less dry is to try to improve your roster. Best way to improve your roster at this point is trade for guys that other people may be undervaluing, guys that you really like their situation and just kind of kicking the tires, always trying to evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the best times to make the trades are now, before all the hype and the news and everything else comes back out. And this guy looks phenomenal in training camp. He's seeing 75% of the first team reps, or, he's sitting out, but we all know he's the starter. It's just, now is the best time to really start kicking the tires on some deals and some guys that moving forward. And to improve your roster, whether you're a championship team or you're you've already accepted the fact that you're probably rebuilding. You may make the playoffs as the 6th seed or the 4th seed, however many seeds are in that. But you're like, I know I can't compete against such and such team, so maybe I need to move some of these pieces and gather some draft picks for next year or this year if you haven't had your draft. I know we've done 2. We're still sitting on at least 2. Roughly 2 or 3 still to go in our dynasties.
Yeah, and again, I think for those of us that do draft early, obviously you and I were involved in several drafts the weekend after the NFL draft concluded. So I think there's a level of excitement there too. Those of us that draft really early, and then it creates that long drawn out feeling, or the leagues like where we're at in some of our home leagues where we don't draft until like, week 2 before the season. There's the only excitement we have is from doing trades and acquiring some players that we're really buying in on this offseason. So Brant, I'm going to ask you that you go first. We're going to talk about why we like the player just a little bit, and then we're going to talk about some real life value that has happened across fantasy platforms in the last week or so, and just kind of see what the current price is and if you're willing to pay that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to kick it off with a quarterback here that you and me have talked about quite a bit in this offseason. That's Trevor Lawrence. The hype's there. The hype's there a little bit with the team. I don't think it's really him. They lost all their weapons. They cut Ingram, or they traded Ingram. They cut, Christian Kirk, or traded Kirk. I'm not even sure exactly, but really everything was like before the draft. They're like, who's he throwing the ball to? And right now he's got the new weapon in Travis Hunter, and he finished as QB 27 last year. I understand he only did play in 10 games. He's still only 25 years old. This was supposed to be the next generational talent when he came out to Jacksonville. And now, he struggled last year. He struggled his rookie year, finishing outside of the top 20 in 2 years. And so a lot of people are not completely sold on him. And right now is the chance to really probably get after him and get him low.
All right, Brant. So are you ready for some current real life trade prices that have gone down for Trevor Lawrence?
Mm-hmm.
See how you're feeling about this. All right, first one I've got for you is a pick swap and a quarterback swap. You give up Dak Prescott in the 107 in this year's draft. You get Trevor Lawrence in the 110.
So I moved back 3 spots. I don't think I am going to take that. I like that 107. You're right there at that spot where you can actually get the running back or a running back in this draft. You got Dak, who just got a new weapon and finally gets a real threat as a number 2 target guy there. So I think I would probably hold on to Dak. I think the ages are very similar as well. I don't think there's much of an age difference between those two.
Okay. Geno Smith, Brian Robinson, and a 2026 second rounder to get Trevor Lawrence.
I'd make that deal. I would take Trevor Lawrence. I don't believe in the Geno thing. I do think he has maybe one good year left in him. He does have some decent weapons in there. Brian Robinson, they've already talked about trying to replace him. I know they really didn't do a whole lot to replace him, but I do think I would take Trevor Lawrence in that one.
Okay. Last one I'll throw at you. Trevor Lawrence for Matthew Stafford and Luther Burden.
I think I'm going to take T-Law on that one there. Stafford's coming to the end of his career, so I think I take the youth there. Burden has a lot. He's a great wide receiver. You and me have talked about it, but there is a lot of mouths to feed in that offense.
I'm glad that one at least made you think a little bit, Brant, because that was my trade from one of my leagues. You're not in this one, but yesterday I made that trade when I have one of the worst rosters I've ever owned. I took over an orphan team last year, trying to slowly make it mine. That's legitimately my trade on sitting on Dynasty Daddy right now, and I caught some flack for it after I made that trade. But
so you got which end of the trade were you on?
I sent Trevor Lawrence to get Matthew Stafford and Luther Burden. I want to preface this by saying this roster is so bad that I traded one starter and received 2. The plan is to ultimately flip Matthew Stafford as the season progresses. And some team that's contending needs a quarterback for whatever I can get. But yes, I was trying to get younger at a position of impact and wide receiver. Yeah, it is a super flex league, but so I'm probably 3 years from competing in that league. It's the worst league I've ever owned. So there you go. But yeah, so I did scroll down a little bit. It still was within the last 24 hours, but I did scroll down a little bit so I could get your thoughts on that one. So the first player I'm going to talk about is a wide receiver, and it's a wide receiver that signed pretty early into free agency. So the hype around this player just kind of died a little bit. Excuse me, because I slammed my phone down there. And also this team added I believe, a 4th round wide receiver in the draft that everybody's slowly like really falling in love with. And I'm talking about Stephon Diggs now with the New England Patriots. Is coming off of a little bit of an injury, so obviously there might be a slow start. Team did draft Kyle Williams, who everybody's kind of going ham over at this point. But my biggest thing for Stephon Diggs is I think the New England Patriots came out and kind of said, "Hey, we want to make sure we get Drake May some weapons." Last year, he kind of looked good without much. Kayshon Boutte and all the other train wrecks that were in New England. Hooper, I believe, was still there last year. And they come out and add a pretty good running back that can catch passes out of the backfield and Travion Henderson, draft Kyle Williams, and then their first order of business in free agency was signing Stephon Diggs. Or I guess not their first order of business. They brought him in on a couple visits and signed him. But they did bring him in for that first visit early. I think the value on Stephon Diggs alone makes him intriguing to me, Brant, because this is a guy that could be, down the stretch, could still be a low end wide receiver 2 if he ends up being the alpha in New England, and you're not paying could be alpha prices for him at this point. And it's still worth noting he's only 31 years of age, which feels like a dinosaur, but realistically in today's age, you got guys like Adam Thielen who are still doing it at 34, 35. He's probably still got another year or 2 left of being completely relevant in fantasy. And again, the prices people are paying for Stephon Diggs right now is something that I salivate at a little bit. So I'm going to walk you through a few of these, Brant. I'm going to pick and choose. I'm going to cherry pick. I'm going to pick 2 that I would take and try to find one that I wouldn't, just to see if you're on the same page as me. Isaiah Pacheco straight up for Stephon Diggs.
I'll take Stephon Diggs in that one. You're not sure what that backfield's going to look like. He's a 7th round draft pick. Pacheco is. They added one later in the draft that year. So I think I would take Diggs in that.
Yep, I would take Diggs as well. Stephon Diggs for Jalen Noel and a 3rd round rookie pick in next year's draft.
If I'm competing, I'm taking Diggs. If I need that rebuild here, I'm taking Noel in that pick because I think Noel's going to take over that Tank Dell role and just flourish there in Houston. So I do think I would take Diggs if I'm competing because I think this is a 1 or 2 year alpha wide receiver there. Competing window. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's probably a small shelf life for him. But yes, I think I'm still making that at this point. All right, here's one that I don't think I would do, Brant. I think you're probably on the same page as me. This is a pretty deep draft for wide receivers. Stephon Diggs, but it cost you the 203 and the 209 in the 2025 draft.
No, I don't think I'm taking it because as we've seen in a lot of our drafts is a lot of the running backs are going in that first round. So a lot of these names, a lot of these receivers are slipping out, and it is a very deep draft. So I don't think I am going to take that one.
Okay. All right. So we were kind of in sync there too, that we'd take and 2 we would, or 1 we wouldn't. So, all right, Brent, who's your next guy?
So my next guy is a Chicago Bear. I thought I was going to roll right into it off of the Luther Burden talk. And that's DeAndre Swift. I'm trading for DeAndre Swift. Everyone's like, oh, he's going to get ran out of town again by Ben Johnson, everything else. He's still only 26 years old. The only addition they brought in that backfield, now they do have Roschon Johnson still, who I still think will have that Montgomery role of being the pounder inside the red zone. But they only added a 7th round draft pick. They upgraded that offensive line. You can't stack the box against Swift. You can't do that in Chicago because they have way too many weapons on the outside. So DeAndre Swift is a guy, he's still only 26 years old. DeAndre Swift is a guy that I'm looking to add.
All right. Here you go, Brant. The 301 and the 304 in this year's draft are DeAndre Swift.
I'll take Swift there. That's a potential RB1, and you only have to give up 2 third-round draft picks. He could finish top 12. We saw what Gibbs was capable of in a Ben Johnson offense. So yeah, I think I would take Swift because you're almost guaranteed an RB2 finish inside the top 24 with the potential of an RB1.
All right. Here's one I don't think you would take because I know I sure wouldn't. The 106 in this year's draft for DeAndre Swift and the 308.
No, I'm not going to give up a first-round draft pick for Swift. I can't bring myself to do that. There's this first-round running back draft class is too deep in the first round.
All right. Here's the last one I'm going to hit you with. You get DeAndre Swift. You give up Isaac Guerrero in the 406 in this year's draft.
I think I'll take Swift in that one. I think I would take Swift in that. Guerrero is still, sitting behind CMC. I know CMC's been banged up. He's getting older. But, yeah, I think I'm sticking with and taking Swift in that one.
Okay. I think I would too as well. And you're right, Brant. I'm one of those people. I want it to be Roschon Johnson. I think Roschon Johnson's a stud who, if he gets his opportunity, I think could be very, very appealing for fantasy. I will say this. I think as we keep getting closer and closer to training camp starting, if he's still the number one running back on that roster, it's going to be through a much, 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 much better offensive line, a much better offense than it was last year. And I think all those things point to pretty good running lanes, because you're going to have to respect Caleb Williams this year, especially with an offensive-minded guy like Ben Johnson calling plays, all the weapons on the outside. There should generate some rush lanes. And again, that is a revamped offensive line. So whoever's running there is going to have some really, really nice run lanes. So yeah, if it's Swift, Brant, and again, for some of these gamble prices, like 2 third-rounders, I'm paying that all day and twice on Sunday to potentially have an RB1 in that offense. I think that is going to be a very fun offense this year. So I'm not sure I'm ready to stamp the flag and say league winner DeAndre Swift, but that definitely could be, because he's going to be drafted late as long as he survives. And it wouldn't shock me. I mean, stranger things have happened, Brant.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to talk about a running back here that I think is being somewhat forgotten. It is a running back out of the University of Illinois that does play for another very electric offense in the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm talking Chase Brown. Oddly enough, Brant, I started the offseason trying to sell Chase Brown in a few leagues that I own him. I've since kind of changed my stance on it. And again, I think there was a lot of talk going into this NFL draft season that a lot of people expected Cincinnati to try to get another running back. There was a lot of talks. They had some top 30 visits with guys. A lot of people thought that Chase Brown may get phased out. However, that did not happen. So I think because the volume is going to be king still there in town, he should get plenty of work out of the backfield as far as catching the ball. We know he's going to get the work running the ball. And there's just not any threats to steal touches from him. So I really like Chase Brown again this year. I think if he stays healthy, he's a top 12 running back on the season. And I think you're going to see a bounce back in that Cincinnati Bengals offense, which is only going to be good for Chase Brown, Brant.
Yeah, well, while you bring some of that up, I'm going to talk about Chase Brown. I love this because I think Cincinnati has seen that they have to run the ball a little bit better than they have in the past in order to keep winning these games. Because this year they blew how many leads, or they scored 40 points and still somehow lost. Mm-hmm. They have to control the ball more. You can't just I understand the weapons are phenomenal on the outside, but you can't just 1-2 plays score and then expect your defense to be on the field as much as they were. So I do think that they're going to lean on Chase Brown a little bit more this year. And I think he had to be close to 200 touches last year.
Yeah, I think he was well used. This is a guy who was a fantasy asset. I'm looking him up right now.
Okay.
This is a guy that was well used down the stretch. Just 229 carries last year, 7 touchdowns, 65 receptions. There's the value, Brant. 54 receptions, 11 total touchdowns last year between receiving and rushes. So definitely some value to be had there with Chase Brown. Now, wait till I start telling you some of these prices, Brant. All right, I get Chase Brown and a 2026 third-round pick. All I have to give up is Travis Etienne.
I'm doing that all day. You're getting Chase Brown and a pick. I'm doing that all day. This guy finished inside the top 12 in PPR league last year and playing in 16 of 17 games. I'm absolutely going to take Chase Brown.
Yep. All right, here you go, Brant. I get Chase Brown and the 104 in this year's draft, and all I have to do is give up Jaden Reed in the 106.
You're getting Chase Brown and what?
And the 104
Okay, so you're moving up.
I
and
give up the 106 and Reed.
You're giving up a guy that could possibly get phased lower in that pecking order in Green Bay. Yeah, I'm taking that one.
Yep. Here's one I don't think I'm going to do, Brant. The picks are kind of intriguing in this, but I still think I'm going to hold off. I get Chase Brown and the 107. I give up Ladd McConkey and the 208.
I would definitely have to sit on that one a little bit and think about it, and look at my needs. That one's a need basis because Ladd does still have value. Herbert actually was almost making my board as my quarterback to trade for. So that's one. I'm probably keeping Ladd and keeping Ladd in that one. But that one is if I have a need at running back, because you said I'm getting Chase and a first, I'm giving up Ladd in a second. So I could possibly, if my need is running back, I'm going to take that because that could possibly solidify 2 running backs right off the rip for me.
Yeah, I mean, the 107 is certainly intriguing. But again, I think when you talk about Ladd McConkey, you're talking about a guy that people slept on last year and I think really woke up to really early. So again, I think my reason for saying I would not take that is because the shelf life of a wide receiver in dynasty football versus the shelf life of a running back is going to be a dramatic difference. And you're going to have Ladd McConkey for many, 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 many more years than you will Chase Brown.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my wide receiver, this is the one I think is going to be a little eye-popping because everybody's been hating on this team all offseason. My wide receiver I'm trading for is Jerry Jeudy. 26 years old still. The only true number one. You have Cedric Tillman fighting for the number 1 spot with him. You do have David Njoku still there. I don't think this team is going to be as competitive as we've seen them in the past. I know last year was a really weird year for them. But I think they're still going to be playing from behind. And this guy could end up seeing double-digit targets almost every single game. This is an alpha on a team that I think you can get. You might be able to get this guy cheaper than Stephon Diggs. I'd have to look and I'll listen to what you have to say on what trades have happened. But this is an alpha on a team that could be playing from behind a lot and has tremendous value at 26 years old.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with the first one that sticks out to me because it's happened 3 times in the last 24 hours, Brant. Jerry Jeudy for George Pickens straight up. Which side do you prefer to be on?
I'm going to take Jeudy in that one. I'm going to take the alpha. I'm going to take the guy that could see as many targets. They won't be as valuable as CeeDee Lamb's target because how good CeeDee Lamb is. But this guy could end up seeing the same amount of targets that just, like I said, won't be as valuable as a CeeDee Lamb, which is probably going to be at least 30 to 40 higher than what Pickens will see, at least.
You know, I think I might have been on the Pickens side of it until I realized Pickens actually has a higher drop ball rate than Quentin Johnston, which was a creative little post the Fantasy Holics page had out the other day, had a blind ranking of 3 wide receivers and they showed drop rates and Pickens' drop rate was almost double Quentin Johnston, which was kind of shocking to me because I'd always pictured – I never owned Pickens, so I never watched him that intently, but I just envisioned him in my brain as this guy who goes up and strong hands the ball and always comes down with it. And that's just not the case.
I learned about his drop rate when I made the mistake of him having 4 catches in one game and put a little chump change on it, and he had 1 catch with like 8 targets. So, yes, I learned his drop rate real bad that week.
All right, let me get back into this. Here's another straight up wide receiver for wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton? Former teammates in Denver there.
I think I'm going to take Jeudy on this one. This is a tough one, but I think I'm going to take Jeudy. I like what is happening in Denver right there, but there's a lot of mouths that could possibly be pecking at some of Sutton's balls there, and so I do like Jeudy in that one.
All right. Last one I'm going to hit you with. Last one I'm going to hit you with. You get Jerry Jeudy and a second round in next year's draft, but you're giving up T. Higgins to do so.
I'm keeping T. Higgins. I can't get rid of a guy getting passes from Joe Burrow. I got to keep T. Higgins. He's been so valuable.
So Jerry Judy's price tag's a little higher right now than I think maybe you envisioned because of the simple fact that he is the dog there.
Mm-hmm.
So
thought a lot of people would be sleeping on him when I put that name out there, just because everyone's been questioning what the Browns are going to do. They brought in their replacement for Nick Chubb, but they brought in a huge quarterback competition with draft picks, and then you still have all that money tied up. So yeah, I thought a lot of people would be sleeping on Jeudy.
Yeah. All right, Brant, here it is for you. The last player we're going to talk about on the show. I'm coming at you with a big name. I'm going to talk about why you should trade for and why you should buy in on Marvin Harrison Jr. right now, Brant. This is a guy that going into draft season last year and startup leagues and redraft leagues was going off the board at wide receiver 7. Midway through the season, he dropped down to wide receiver 19. At season's end, he was back up to wide receiver 16. His current valuation is somewhere in between 16 and 18, depending on where you look at things. So, again, I know we look at this Arizona Cardinals offense and we say this is a Trey McBride first read option, followed by, Kyler Murray taking off with his widow legs and running as fast as he can. Right. And then we talk about James Conner / Trey Benson out of the backfield. The head coach has come out already and said, hey, we got to do a better job getting Marvin Harrison the ball. Marvin Harrison came out and said, hey, I was a little slow last year. Right. Wasn't that Maserati Marv? Rumored to have put on like 15 pounds of muscle this offseason. He says he doesn't know for sure that's what playing weight he's going to stay at, but he does say he feels more explosive, more fast. Kyler Murray has also come out and said that he needed to make sure he got on the page where he was getting the ball to Marvin Harrison. I still think Trey McBride's probably going to lead this team in targets, but I think it'll be closer this year than people expect. Marvin Harrison had a sneaky good rookie year last year, obviously outshadowed by Malik Neighbors. But if you're asking me if I'm willing to pay wide receiver 18 prices for a guy that's still got 10 years of NFL football, probably is a number 1 wide receiver on my roster, if not a very, very high-end wide receiver 2. That's what I'm willing to do. Now, when I start getting into some of these prices that people are giving up for him, I'm salivating over some of these again as well, Brant. If I was in a position to do these, I would not think twice. First one, Marvin Harrison, you get him, you give up pick 106 and pick 211.
I'm going to take Marvin Harrison because you're not getting one of the top 10 or top tier wide receivers there most likely. So I think I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison on that one.
Yep. Again, Marvin Harrison for the pick 110 and a third next year.
I'm taking Marvin Harrison there.
Let me see if I can find one where maybe you don't take Marvin Harrison. Non-tight end premium. This one just went down. You get Marvin Harrison, you give up TJ Hawkinson and T. Higgins.
I think I'd take Marvin Harrison just because that it's not tight end premium and you're not even sure who's throwing the ball in Minnesota right now. I know the rumors are JJ. I think I'm going to take Marvin Harrison in that one. It's tough because I do like T. Higgins, but I do think I'd take Marvin Harrison.
All right, I'm curious to see where you lean on this one. This is the last one I'm going to hit you with here, Brant. You get Marvin Harrison and a second round pick next year. You give up BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr.
So I got to give up Marvin Harrison and a pick for BTJ. I'm getting the pick.
No, sorry. Yes, you're giving up the pick and Marvin Harrison.
I think I'm going to take Marvin Harrison. I still think I'm going to take Marvin Harrison on that one. That one is definitely a head scratcher a little bit, but I do think I take Marvin Harrison.
Prices are juicy right now. I mean, people are down on him. Obviously, when you have a player that everybody says is the number 1 overall player in Dynasty rookie drafts and comes out as probably wide receiver 3, player 4 or 5 behind Brock Bowers, Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, people start to think about that. People remember those things, right? And so again, if you're able to go buy this guy for those prices, Brant, I think those are prices that are worth paying. And again, it's something to get awful excited about if I'm looking and seeing Marvin Harrison on my squad all of a sudden.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It definitely is. He's definitely a guy that could easily take over the role. He's going to see some tough defenses in that division with San Fran and then Seattle secondary, and the Rams always seem to put everything together. But I think he has to be the guy that they get the ball in his hands in crunch time, because Trey McBride is going to see a lot more coverage than he did this year. He's not going to be standing in the middle of the field wide open as many times as he did this year. I have no idea how late in the season he was still getting 10 catches a game, 10 phenomenal catches, like standing there wide open. So I do think that coverages are going to shift to him, and Marvin Harrison's going to see a lot more openings.
Absolutely. All right. So I think that kind of does it for this week's players. I will ask, if I can put you on the spot right now, Brant, what's one player that you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, and one player, you don't have to give me any reasoning, just a name, one player you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, and one player that if you had on your roster, you would be selling him as quick as you could be at this point, that other people are high on?
DK Metcalf. You have no idea who's throwing the ball. He just lost Pickens. I don't think I'm touching him. I understand I do own him, unfortunately. I'm trying to figure out exactly in that lineup already, how do I not have to start DK Metcalf? I don't trust it. Even if they sign Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if I trust it. There's nobody else to take coverage away from him. So, yeah, DK I'm not touching. And then what was the other one?
That was it.
Okay.
That was it. I just kept prefacing it there a little bit. Yeah, I think for me, Brant, I think if I had to do it, I'm going to say, I put you on a spot here and didn't even think about this at all myself. Who's Breece Hall, I think, is the guy for me. Number one traded running back on Dynasty Daddy right now. We actually just had him get traded in our home league. I think I'm kind of fading Breeze a little bit this year, Brant. Maybe I'm wrong for doing so. But the talk was that the Jets team was looking to move on from him during the NFL draft. Didn't happen. No ties to him in that front office. Aaron Glenn's coming from that Detroit Dan Campbell system there, where they feature a couple different running backs that are really good. But I think Braylon Allen is more of that David Montgomery bruiser role, but also catches the ball really well out of the backfield. I'm very much in on Braylon Allen this year. I don't know how I feel about Breece Hall's long-term value, so I wouldn't touch it at all right now. I don't know what the price would have to be for me to say, yeah, I'll take Breece Hall, but it's got to be pretty low because I wouldn't pay much to get him right now.
Yeah, that's a tough one to go with. Trade rumors, another running back that I'm gonna. I know you put me on the spot. I'm just gonna add this one, Travis Etienne. I own him as well, and it's.
Is anybody excited about Travis Etienne right now, though? Is anybody going out and getting him?
A lot of people are, because he still would technically be the one, but a lot of people don't see as the coaching staff has no ties to him. Maybe they're not as excited as I'm thinking some people are, but Travis Etienne's a guy that I wouldn't want to touch this year. He's another one. I'm trying to figure out how do I get him out of my lineup, but there's not a whole lot of moving to move him. Maybe I could package both of them together and get like a 4th-round draft pick.
It's possible. It's possible. So, I think that does sum it up for us today, this week. Definitely good to be back after having to be AWOL last week, and you riding out solo. So look forward to getting back on track and being here again next week as well.
Yep. As always, stay hungry.
Stay fat, my friends.